Have you ever wondered what really makes you tick? Well, today we're going to dive into the fascinating world of personality, and we're going to do it by breaking down one of the most famous frameworks out there for understanding it all, the Myers-Briggs.
I mean, it's a fundamental question, right? You see it everywhere, in every team, every family, every group of friends. You've got the person who needs a detailed plan for absolutely everything, and then you've got the person who's just happy to go with the flow. And you know what? These aren't just random quirks. They're actually predictable patterns in how we operate.
So, where do these patterns even come from? Well, it turns out they are not random at all. There's a really powerful theory that basically provides a map for all these differences. And believe it or not, it all starts with one very simple idea. At its heart, the theory that started with Carl Jung and was later developed by Myers and Briggs is, well, it's beautifully simple. It really just boils down to this. At any given moment, your mind is doing one of two things. You're either taking in information, what they call perceiving, or you're making a decision with it, what they call judging. That's it. You're either perceiving or you're judging. Simple as that. You know, a perfect way to think about this is with your hands. You can probably write with both of them, right? But one of them just feels natural. It feels comfortable. That's exactly what personality preferences are like. It's not about what you can do, it's all about what you prefer to do. What comes most naturally to you without even thinking about it. And this brings us to a really, really important distinction. This framework helps identify your type, which is your natural preference, kind of like your starting point. It's very different from a trait, which is just a measurement of your behavior. So try to think of your type not as a box that defines you, but more like a home base that you naturally operate from. Okay, so how does this theory get more specific? Well, it maps our natural tendencies across 4 key preference pairs. You can think of these pairs as the building blocks that when you combine them create the 16 unique personality types. These 4 pairs, they basically answer 4 fundamental questions about you. How do you get your energy? How do you prefer to take in information? How do you like to make decisions? And how do you tend to organize your outer world? So let's break them down one by one. First up, energy. Where do you get your juice? Do you recharge by interacting with the outside world, or do you recharge by retreating to your own inner world? That is the core of extroversion versus introversion. And a super key point here. This has absolutely nothing to do with being shy or outgoing. It's purely about where you draw your energy from. Next, information. When you look at the world, do you trust the concrete facts right there in front of you, or do you tend to focus more on the patterns and possibilities behind them? That's sensing versus intuition. A sensor will notice the specific details of the trees, the bark, the leaves, while an intuitive is more likely to see the overall pattern of the whole forest and where it's going. So once you have all that information, how do you make decisions with it? Well, a preference for thinking means you kind of step back from the situation, analyzing it with logic and objective principles. A preference for feeling means you step into the situation, considering your personal values and the impact on the people involved. It's that classic difference between the head and the heart, right? And finally, how do you like to live your outer life? The judging preference is all about a planned, organized world where decisions get made and things are settled. The perceiving preference, on the other hand, is for a flexible, spontaneous approach, keeping your options open and adapting as you go. Think plan the work and work the plan versus let's just go with the flow and see what happens. So, once you have your 4 letters, let's say you're an INTP or an ESFJ, you might think, okay, that's it, story's over. But it's not. Not even close. Those letters are really just a code for something much more dynamic and interesting happening just beneath the surface. That's right. Those 4 letters aren't just a simple label. They actually interact with each other in a very specific order and hierarchy, and that creates this rich, 3-dimensional picture of how your mind actually works. It's not 4 separate parts. It's one whole integrated system. This deeper layer is what's known as cognitive functions. Now, don't let the name scare you. Just think of them as 8 mental tools that we all have in our toolkit. Your 4-letter type is simply a shortcut that tells you which of these tools you prefer to use, the order you like to use them in, and whether you tend to point them inward or outward. This is where the theory gets really, really powerful. Okay, so this theory is fascinating, right? But here's the million-dollar question. What do you actually do with it? How can you use this knowledge in your real everyday life? All right, this part is incredibly important, so listen up. The Myers-Briggs framework is a tool for development.
not for judgment. It's brilliant for understanding yourself, for communicating better, for appreciating the differences on a team. But it should absolutely never be used to pigeonhole someone, predict their job performance, or, and this is a big one, make hiring decisions. That's not what it's for.
So, as we start to wrap things up, let's get right to the heart of it. Beyond all the letters and the theory, why does any of this truly matter?
Because when you get right down to it, the goal isn't to change who you are or to try and master every single function perfectly. The real goal is just awareness. It's about understanding your mind's natural wiring so you can use it consciously instead of just being driven around by unconscious habits. And that awareness, that's the seed for some real, genuine personal growth. I mean, when you have the language to understand yourself, you can be more authentic. And when you know your natural strengths and your potential blind spots, you just become more resilient, better equipped to handle whatever life decides to throw your way. So that's the question I want to leave you with. Once you understand the lens you're looking through, how could that change not only how you see yourself, but how you understand everyone around you? It's a pretty powerful thought. Thanks for joining me on this one.